everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cristina Cabrillo Santos. I'm a doctor of acupuncture, and today I have a lovely guest, Dr. Perry Levinson, who I'll be referring to as Dr. Perry because we have that kinship. Welcome, Dr. Perry.
Thank you, Dr. Christina. So
So,
great to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Perry is a doctor of Chinese medicine. He's also a licensed massage therapist, and he's been a practitioner for a very long time. We're not going to say how long, but he has a lot of experience. So today's topic is an interesting topic, which is kind of dear to my heart as well. And we're talking about the integration of the germ theory and terrain theory. And of course, I'll let Dr. Perry explain that. But before that, I just want to give you a little bit of a background about Dr. Perry and how I know him. And because he's also a licensed massage therapist, I actually met him while I was studying massage therapy at Pacific College. And he was one of the teachers teaching Chinese philosophy and history, which, to tell you the truth, I never really resonated with history. I really needed to have teachers who are engaging, who can be entertaining for me to really want to take in the content. The only areas of history that really interested me was more like ancient Sumeria and ancient Egyptians. So when I was listening to Dr. Perry's lectures, it was always very entertaining, and it's awesome to reconnect with him. We've stayed in touch all these years. And yeah, I just want Dr. Perry to tell us a little bit about his journey into Chinese medicine, because I know it was an interesting kind of transition, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much again for being here with us.
Thank you. As I said, it was a pleasure, and thank you for your kind words. I'm glad that my class was interesting, and I loved having you as a student. I will say that, and I really love having you as a colleague, because
thank you so much.
You have a great mind, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. So my journey, I think I told you earlier, I was always good at touching people. Like massage is something that came naturally to me, and putting my hands on people. I'm a very physically demonstrative person. I talk with my hands, as you can see. And as a kid, I found that if I was able to massage my mom's feet, I was able to help her asthma attacks and help her breathing. And I never knew why, but I just knew it worked. And fast forward to my late 20s, I was an actor, always looking for ways to make money and other ways, legal. But waiting tables, bussing tables, bartending, working in an office, whatever I had to do. But I still loved massage. And I gave a friend of mine a massage one day, I think for her birthday. And in the middle of it, she just sighed and said, "Oh, you should do this for a living." And I always joke, I'm like, it was like the clouds parted and the sun shone down and my path was illuminated. I can do this for a living. People do this for a living? That's amazing. And I went to a massage school that focused on East Asian medicine. So the focus of the school was a Korean type of bodywork called AMA. And so a lot of what we learned enough of the Western techniques to pass the New York State licensing test, but the focus of the school was Eastern medicine. And I just fell in love. I thought, this is such a beautiful system of medicine. It's poetic and metaphoric, and it speaks my language. I've always been much more of an abstract person than but it's also very pragmatic. If this, then that. Everything's causal, everything's a relationship. You can see how things fit together, which is really good for my mind too. And so my wife jokes that I graduated massage school, and then I waited till I had 2 kids and the price of the acupuncture education tripled. And then I went back to school for my master's degree in
Right.
Chinese medicine, and then completed my doctorate about a year and a half ago. So yeah, thank you. Woo-hoo. That's right. It's been quite a journey, and I just love it, because when you work with the body, you just never stop learning. There's always more to learn. It's humbling, but it's exhilarating. And I had someone else, I asked someone, "What do you love about what you do?" And she said, "I love helping people turn their light on.
Mm. Oh, yes. Isn't that a joy? Like,
Yeah,
wow, that's like that deep joy inside of us. That's
absolutely.
amazing. Wow, that's a great journey. And I love also that you have found these ways a little bit later in life. Like I've spoken to other people, they've started early in life. I also had a path where I studied Chinese medicine in my 30s, right? So
Mm.
it's never too late to really pursue that soul's yearning, right? Whether you discover it later in life or earlier, just like follow that passion. You never even know who can open those doors for you. So that's really lovely.
Thank you. And I have so many friends who are at the age now who are talking about retirement, and they did their job, they did their work, and they kind of struggled through it. They didn't always love it, but they did it because it was the job they had to do so that they could pay for their life and support their families. But now they're looking forward to putting that behind them. And I'm just like, are you kidding? Every day I feel like I'm just getting started. Like there's so much more to learn. Each person is a new journey, a new adventure, a new. So why would you ever want to not do this?
Yeah, that's the beauty, I think, of this medicine is that you really, well, medicine in general, you really can never stop learning. And every new day, every new patient, every new person that you work with just brings up something new and interesting, whether you've treated those issues before or not. So, absolutely finding that joy every day.
Well, I think I'll say this too, that's the beauty of Chinese medicine, is that even if there's someone who comes in and says, I have XYZ diagnosis, have you ever treated this before? Sometimes I can say, yes, sure, I've had a great experience with that. And sometimes I have to say, no, but given the canon of available literature in Chinese medicine, I am sure I will be able to help you figure out what's going on and help you get on a path towards better health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good to note. Now, so going back to really the topic of this talk, um, we talked a little bit beforehand about this idea of integrating the germ and terrain theory. So for people who are not familiar even with that terminology, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows with germ theory and how, that paved the way for antibiotics and all these lovely therapies that we do need and have. Now,
Mhm.
can you explain a little bit about both and why are you so passionate about it? Because I'm passionate about understanding why some people get sick while others don't, even if they exhibit the same lifestyles and vice versa. So
Mhm.
can you just go a little bit into that?
Sure. So germ theory is the idea that pathogens, bacteria, viruses, microscopic organisms, cause disease. So we get infected, and then they propagate and we get sick. Classic example, right, is the rhinovirus. We talked about that earlier. You get in contact with the rhinovirus, it causes what we know as the common cold. And pretty much no one's immune, although there are some people who never get colds. I'm jealous of those people.
It's so
But
true. It's so true.
So that's kind of one example, right? We come in contact with a germ of some kind. It enters our body and it disrupts our physiology, and we have symptoms, and we get sick, right? There was one time, I'll be brief, but there was one time I was in my daughter's second grade class talking about the Asian New Year. I used to go into their class and talk about Asian New Year, like the Lunar New Year, and a little bit about Chinese medicine and about energy flows in the body. And I have an energy ball. It's a little ping pong ball with a battery and lights in it. And when you complete the circuit, the ball lights up and buzzes. And so I said, I can't prove that your body produces energy, but I can prove that we conduct energy. And I put the ball, I held one lead and the teacher held the other lead and everyone held hands. And when the last person held hands, the ball lit up because we closed the circuit.
Wow,
Right?
I love that.
And everyone was really excited. And this one little boy, who you could tell was kind of the kid who was usually the kid who acted up a little in class, he pulled his hand away. And they were like, no, come on. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And And they're like, come on, they were all yelling at him, and he goes, no, I'm a virus. And I thought, this kid is a genius. You know, I couldn't have planned a better lesson.
That's a
Right?
perfect example for the
And I
kids
said,
to learn.
that's it. I said, thank you so much. To this boy, I said, thank you. Because that's what happens when we get sick. The energy doesn't move the way it's meant to, and we have symptoms. In this case, the symptom is the ball not lighting us up, and we don't get to enjoy it. But if you get sick in your body, it could be a sneeze or a cough or a sore throat or a headache or a belly ache. But when we have a disease process happening, we have symptoms, and that's exactly what we just saw. So thank you so much. And then he didn't know what to do because he was trying to disrupt us, but
Right.
it's like, wait, I'm not supposed to be helping the lesson.
But that's how you explain the germ theory, basically. And in a way, you know, obviously you're relating to Chinese medicine, but that's kind of like explaining, okay, we have these viruses, we can get affected, yet some people, you know, fall ill for like a week from a common cold, and some people are like, I am chipper, I am moving, I am good. So what's the difference? Yeah. That's where terrain comes in, right?
That's where terrain comes in, exactly. So terrain theory is more, there's two aspects. One is that the pathogens, certain pathogens can change your physiology. They do, right, to make your physiology more hospitable to the growth of the virus. Right? So like in the case of malaria, it actually makes your body more acidic, which allows it to propagate. Right? That's why things like quinine help with malaria, because they're more alkaline and they help to bring the body back into more of a balance and make it more difficult for the bacteria, right? So they change the terrain. Right. So that's one part, right? The invading pathogen will actually change your body to make it more conducive to its own growth and needs. The other part of terrain theory is the basic level of health, or I can say your basic constitution. So in Chinese medicine, we talk about that too, right? There's a metal type and a fire type and an earth type constitution. And they're prone to different types of illnesses because of the terrain.
Absolutely.
And I've been talking to people a lot about this year, because in Corona, it seems very willy-nilly. Some people get really sick. Some people don't get that sick at all. Some of it has to do with viral load, the amount of virus you're exposed to, but some of it also has to do with how balanced your terrain is at the exposure, at the onset.
Right. Mm-hmm. That makes total sense, right?
Yeah, I think so. So some of terrain, how could you, it's like studying the weather, but taking the earth out of the equation. Well, without the earth, there would be no weather, right? So, yeah. So to study germs and disease, but not take into account the person that they're in or they're interacting in, right? Hippocrates, I was reading this the other day. Hippocrates, there was Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine. You know, all doctors take the Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. Hippocrates, quote, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly, but basically the person that has the disease is more important than the disease they have.
Isn't that interesting, right?
Right. Okay. So it's not, so one, pay attention to the person in front of you, not the diagnosis.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, the typical approach in the Western medical system is to look at the diagnosis, to look at the signs and symptoms only, and really not take into account the rest of the person. I mean, obviously that's changing as, you know, medicine is developing and we're learning more and more about the mind-body connection, but it's not just the mind-body connection, other things are involved as well.
Correct. Right? But we're also learning about DNA, but we're also learning about epigenetics, right? And how we can actually change your genetic expression to a certain extent. So all of those things fall under the heading of terrain. Some people do have better natural immune fighting, immune defenses than
Mhm.
other people based on their genetics. But a lot of it comes down to all the things that you're talking about in your, in your show here, to your patients, kind of how you, we've spoken before, and how you live your life and what you focus on, right? Balance and harmony, balance, rest and activity, balanced diet, good clean water, right?
Exactly.
Good sleep, all of those things, good food, whole food, right? And a friend of mine was saying that her cholesterol was a little high, and her doctor put her on one of the statins, right? And she's like, "No, you have high cholesterol," and I said, "According to certain blood tests, I do." But if you've noticed, since statin drugs came on the scene, the window of what acceptable cholesterol has narrowed and narrowed and narrowed to the point where everyone needs a statin to have normal cholesterol. Right? I said, I
bringing
don't.
that up, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that my mother, right, part of the inherited terrain is high cholesterol. It's part of the genetic makeup, right? So I said, I don't think that my cholesterol is caused by a statin deficiency, right? I don't think that Alzheimer's disease is necessarily an Aricept deficiency, right?
I understand. Yeah.
These are often diseases of lifestyle. In fact, I haven't done the research, so maybe I shouldn't even say this, but I have a sense that a reason we're seeing, aside from the fact that people are living longer, the reason we're seeing an increase in dementia and Alzheimer's is because people are artificially reducing their cholesterol to such low levels, and the brain needs that. We could do this. This could be another show because we're getting off topic.
Yeah, absolutely. but you can relate it to the Constitution, though. As far as like Chinese medicine goes, we do talk about being born with a certain constitution, right? And we talk about the elements. And as we spoke about prior to this conversation, you said what can show up, for instance, if a person is more of a metal element or a earth element, certain pathologies or diseases will be either more conducive to expressing themselves or not, again depending on the person's constitution. So can you relate a little bit the terrain theory to Chinese medicine constitution?
Yeah, well, so the earth type person tends to hold weight around the middle. They tend to be a little shorter, right? Not as long. Like the water type would have a long willowy kind of spine, right? Earth type's a little more stout, a little more big boned or solid, and in balance they are kind of good natured and generous and nurturing and giving. Right? Out of balance, they can actually give to the point of neglecting themselves and falling ill. They tend to be more prone to kind of digestive disorders, and and we will call like damp diseases, right? So damp diseases are things that can that show up often with bloating, heaviness, digestive issues. So the earth type is much more prone. Fire type is much more prone to heart ailment, right? The fire type constitution. So their terrain is such that is the weakness. In balance, it can drive the creative process. It can drive the spiritual process, the fire element, right? The heart is the way we connect to the outside world. So it can drive our expression, but out of balance, it can become mania, right? It can become, right? And so people who are heart types out of balance are more prone to things like bipolar or depression or mania. They can happen together or separately, or actual physical heart issues, right? So knowing that constitutional type gives you an idea of the terrain you're dealing with.
Yeah, and what you can do to better it.
Correct.
So,
So
right,
right, because
exactly.
it's right, because right, knowing information and not having, right, just to know and not to do is not to know, but to know and not to have a plan for positive change is also like not knowing, right? So that would be
Absolutely.
terrible if we said to people, oh, I can tell you why and what the problems will be for you 20 years from now. Good luck with that, right? That would be terrible, right? Our
Yeah.
job is to help people
Create
find a
an
path.
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to create a more beneficial environment that sustains and supports their life. And I always say, like, my job is to help you. I can't help you figure out what your passion is and like what your highest expression is. But my job is to help you be able to express it, to bring it into the world, right? Bring the highest level of yourself in this form into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And even that's a little bit airy-fairy for some people, you know. They would like it a lot better if I said my job is to get you better. But that's not my job. Right? My job is to help you find the practices and foods and things you need so that you can take responsibility and live vibrantly and fully and completely, right?
Exactly. That's why it's so important to really work with people individually to figure out what works for them, because one diet doesn't fit everyone's lifestyle, and it's not going to be the best for every single type of person and their constitution. And yes, we can give more of a generalized, whether you're on social media or just doing lectures, you can give these generalized tips that people can implement. But ultimately, the real work is when you can look at the whole person and understand what's going on and what type of lifestyle they lead. Like we mentioned, do you drink filtered water? Do you have purified air in your home? Or do you live in a moldy house that's constantly making you sick, right? Though that's the external environment that we can change, do something about it, right?
Yes, exactly. So all the things we can do that can affect our terrain are exactly that. Whole foods, fresh live foods out of the ground, off the range, right? And onto our plate, right? Cooked, of course. And 8 hours of sleep. Right?
Quality sleep. I did a conversation on sleep, and really it's the quality sleep, because some people I know can sleep 13 hours and still not feel rested, right? Mm-hmm. Still feel fatigue and brain fog, and then you really have to dig deeper and see what is going on. Why is sleep not helping you get the rest that you need?
Some of that isn't sleep, right? Isn't the length of sleep, it's the terrain.
Exactly. So you kind of specialize, or it's maybe people found you and that just became a thing, but you work with people who have autoimmune, right? You work with a lot of Lyme patients. So can you tell our audience a little bit about these issues? Because especially living here in the Northeast, I know Pennsylvania, New Jersey, people go on hikes and there's a lot of ticks and stuff. So can you tell the audience a little bit about Lyme and also autoimmune and how you can help with the terrain?
Yeah, because that's exactly right. So here's an interesting thing, right? Most of us have Borrelia bacteria in our bodies, right? We have a biome, a microbiome, which is the collection of fungus, bacteria, viruses, germs that live on and in our bodies. Right? And for the most part, they're in balance, and they support us, right? These like a lot of the byproducts of the life cycle of the microbes give us the precursors for a lot of our neurotransmitters. Right, GABA, serotonin, a lot of those are created primarily in the gut, even though think of serotonin as a brain neurotransmitter. 80% is in the gut, and something like 85 or 90% of our immunity happens in our gut because it's really our first line of defense. And a lot of that is those microbes. When we have a problem is when a certain population or another population can grow, out of proportion to the others, and there becomes an imbalance in the biome. And that can happen again via lifestyle and yeah, so diet, food, exercise, rest, sleep, all the things we just talked about. Not chewing your food completely can create a situation that could cause inflammation in the cell wall of the gut, and that can cause leaky gut. And then once the products that are supposed to be in the gut and kept in the intestines leak out into the body, that's when you start to see a lot of whole body inflammation. And there are some people that theorize that that is the root of a lot of different autoimmunes, especially the digestive, like Crohn and IBS and ulcerative colitis, things like ulcerative colitis, things like that, all begin as kind of leaky gut. And, you know, we can tighten up those gap junctions in the cell wall and heal the gut, and we can start to heal the person once we can reduce the inflammation. So, but then again, right, because that's what happens is inflammation changes the terrain and then throws off the entire balance, and certain bacteria can grow unchecked and others will die, and then you have a whole unbalanced biome, and then other things can take root. Mm-hmm. So people do get bitten by ticks that carry Borrelia burgdorferi, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme, and they may have like a day or two of feeling fluey, and they may never have another symptom. Right. It's an interesting fact, only about 30% of people with confirmed Lyme cases actually ever recall a tick bite or seeing the bullseye rash. Right?
Yeah, the textbook bullseye is not always. Yeah, I was just working with a client, and she was diagnosed with Lyme, and she worked with practitioners, and there was never a sign of her being bitten. Yeah, absolutely.
That she saw.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah. My introduction to this world was my sister, who has had chronic Lyme for about 20 years. And she's always telling me, you know, you should study with this person, you should study with that person. So about 4.5 years ago, she said to me, look, this woman, Hillary Thing, is doing, Hillary used to teach at Pacific College as well. Hillary's doing this talk. She's an expert in treating Lyme with Chinese medicine. You should go hear her talk. And she talked about the terrain, and she talked about Chinese medicine. She talked about how the bacteria like burrows in and changes the terrain to make it more hospitable to its own growth. And
so smart.
So this is all, yeah, this is all in like a you know, a 35-minute, you know, introduction to her work. And I was like, okay, sign me up. So I spent the last 4.5 years studying with her. I'm now a TA in her program, and I work in her clinic a couple of days a month. I go up to Kingston and work there.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, really an amazing journey. But that's what opened me up. And then in our discussions about treating Lyme and really opening up a discussion in the terrain, that's what started to open up my practice to people with autoimmune. Because even though it's not a pathogen per se, it's your body being perceived as the pathogen, that tells me the terrain is off.
Exactly.
Right? What causes that? Right? Stress is probably a major trigger for most autoimmune. Right? There's a certain percentage of autoimmune that's genetic, but
right.
But it's also but a lot of it is the terrain, because I also know a lot of people who have been diagnosed with MS, lupus, Sjogren's, Hashimoto's, right? And they are living full and active, unencumbered lives, right? So we never can say you're cured, because they never say that, right? There's no cure, but you're in remission, you know. But they would say they have no symptoms, right? So that's fine with them. You call it what you want. I feel good.
Exactly. As long as you can live a full life, you know,
right.
Because I know people who have, it's debilitating pain. They can't get out of bed, you know, like aches and pains all over. And it's like you want to be able to provide a quality of life for these patients, right? In the long run. And it takes time. Obviously, these are issues that are very hard to treat, and it takes time, right?
Yes,
Because usually
absolutely.
people are like, acupuncture, great. Chinese medicine, one treatment, I'll be
Right.
awesome, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's be realistic, right?
I actually have a patient now who is, it's really like a post-COVID syndrome.
Okay,
So
okay.
had COVID a year ago.
What are some of the things that are exhibiting, right?
We'll go a few months and feel fine, and then have a relapse and remitting exhaustion, just wiped out. Joint swelling and inflammation and pain, right? Which also made me suspicious for Lyme, because that's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Recently had blood work, and it came back positive for Lyme. So the patient's saying, so was it COVID that's creating this problem? Is it Lyme that's creating this problem? I said, here's my theory of your particular case.
Right.
You probably got bitten and didn't know, and the bacteria was in your body and kind of hanging out and having a good time and not causing you any problem because you were pretty fit and strong. You got COVID, which knocked you out and put you out for 6 weeks, where you were completely debilitated. Your immune system was really busy fighting COVID, right, and the coronavirus, and you were using all of your resources. So even after you started to feel better, you were still really tired. That was the perfect opportunity for the latent Borrelia bacteria to. It's an opportunistic bacteria, right? So it takes advantage. You were weak, and it was like, oh, I've been hanging out here biding my time. It's like the evil genius in his lair, right?
Oh yeah. Here is my opportunity.
Right. That's right. Here's my opportunity. The world is ripe for my kind of chaos, right? And so start to propagate, and then you start to see the Lyme symptoms become more prominent. So the tiredness, body aches, joint inflammation, all of those things. And so I said, so how do we deal with that now? Well, one, we can't just start to build you up. There are some really good herbs that will help strengthen the person without help strengthening the pathogen, but a lot of tonics that people will take will also strengthen the pathogen, right? If you strengthen the body, you strengthen the pathogen. So it's really a matter of, so the Lyme approach is really like an 8-step approach to getting symptoms under control so people feel good. Because as you said, if someone can't get out of bed, can't function, then we have to address that. Once they start to get stronger, we can start to look at eradicating the bacteria. How do we get the bacteria uprooted and move it out of the body? Yeah. And then we talk about the bacteria being able to change the terrain. Here's like we talked about, like these smart bacteria and viruses, right? Viruses are pretty cagey and smart. They can mutate quickly, as we're seeing the different mutations of the coronavirus, right? But the spirochete, it's a spirochete. A spiral looks like a corkscrew, the Borrelia bacteria, and it can exist in three different states. So it actually can exist in a state in your body with no cell wall, right? So how does our immune system work? One way it works is it recognizes proteins on the cell wall of invading pathogens, and we mount a response to those proteins, right? But if there's no cell wall, it can hide. It actually also can exist as a cystic form. So that's why people get antibiotic, and the bacteria will perceive the attack and just become like a cyst.
And encapsulates itself to protect itself.
And it becomes impervious to the antibiotic. So then you have your 6 weeks or 8 week course of antibiotic, which is supposed to eradicate Lyme. But now it's just hanging out, waiting for its next opportunity. Next time you get run down, a little weak, a little tired, or for no reason at all, it's just, hey, the time is right, right?
I see.
It also uses, it's kind of like polysaccharide. So there's sugar and phlegm, but like biofilm is a thing that gets created by these chronic infections. And that's another thing that grows. Is it the bacteria that's creating it, or is it that allows it to be created? But it's kind of a thick film that the pathogens can hide inside of. So parasites use biofilm too to hide and grow and propagate. So we have to get the person out of pain or help deal with the symptoms, start to help them get stronger physically so they can deal with the purging. So then we have to deal with the pathogens, and then biofilm, right? And all this time being continually nourishing a terrain that's inhospitable to the pathogen and hospitable to the host's life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it really takes, we talked about someone who has a chronic illness, and we talked about it takes time, because it really is about, you have to unpack the disease process and kind of break down a lot of the body, not physically and not to the point of debility,
right?
But before, people just want to take a pill and feel better. And I tell a lot of my patients who have been suffering for 10 or 15 years, if that was going to work, it would have worked already.
Exactly.
We have to do something else. And one of the prevailing theories of healing, it's just about a month for every year of illness.
Yeah, I've read about that too. Yeah, and like I kind of relate that to Chinese medical theory too. And when will I feel better? Oh well, let's count.
That's right.
Just to get an idea. Yeah.
You've been sick for 10 months. So, and you're pretty weak right now. I mean, you've been sick for 10 years and you're pretty weak right now. So we're going to say at least a year. Hopefully, I think you're going to start to feel a little better before that.
Right.
That's, of course, the goal. But at least a year till you're starting to feel like yourself again. And 3 years till we can really say that we've made real inroads and you're on the path.
And that's reality. Because then you have to take into consideration everything else, right? What is the state of their thoughts and their external environment that we talked about? So the journey can be long, and really people need to be patient and trusting.
Yeah, a lot of our job, right, is not just, stick the needle in or write the formula, right? A lot of our job is life coaching, cheerleading, right? Being kind of being the sunshine when they can't find it in themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have to kind of, be that radiant warmth that says, hey, there's hope. There's a rainbow up ahead. Just you gotta walk through the rain. And I don't want to belittle that. When you're on that journey and you're in the middle of it, it's not an easy thing to hold on to hope and to hold on to the fact that you could feel yourself. But we stand from the perspective of we have such a powerful system of medicine and a powerful belief in the body's ability to heal if given the right circumstances.
Exactly.
That we can stand in being the ray of hope when they feel hopeless, right? Because we have seen it work time and time again. And even before us, even when I was a newbie, all those years ago, right? I could still stand on the 3,000-year history and say, look, this stuff works, or it wouldn't still be practiced.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you do herbal therapy as well, and you use supplements. So I know you work with certain companies, and I think there's a benefit in taking supplements. But again, people need to know what to take, when to take, for how long, because doing generic things and like going to Dr. Google thinking, okay, I'll just start taking some supplements and I'll take them for I don't know how long. So there's really a benefit to working with companies that are either FDA approved, that you know that all of their ingredients are quality, that have gone through third-party testing and all of that stuff. So just before we wrap up, can you tell people a little bit about what else you integrate into your practice, and especially when it comes to Lyme and autoimmune and just gut health in general?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not really going to talk specific companies because I feel like that's not what we're doing. But if anyone if anyone has questions for me specifically, they can find me through you, and you can give them you can put my email address or something, and people can contact me. But I'll say two things. One is, if you're going to take a supplement, you should find a supplement that is made to pharmaceutical grade, because about 97% roughly of the products that you find on the shelves in any of the stores, whether you go to a high-end vitamin store or a supermarket, one, a lot of them are made in the same facilities. They just put different labels on them. Two, they're made to food grade, which means when you look at the label and it says 500 milligrams of vitamin C, for example, you may get 200 milligrams in one pill, none in one pill, 1,000 in one pill, and by the time you finish the bottle, you're going to get 500 per pill. Right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Right. As opposed to something that's made to pharmaceutical grade, which means that what's on the label is actually the doses in every single pill, because they're made the same way drugs are made. And if drugs are not made correctly, if their formulation is off, people die, right? People don't get the medicine they need.
Exactly.
Right. So finding a company that makes a pharmaceutical grade supplement that's well formulated and absorbable is really important. There's a great resource called the NutriSearch Guide, Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. NutriSearch, Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. I think the 7th or 8th edition is out now. I have the 6th edition currently, and it compares 1,600 different supplement brands and products that are made. It's for Canada and the Americas. So it's Canada, US, Mexico, and I can't remember, Colombia.
Oh, okay.
And it compares all the nutritionals. So what it does is companies have to send their product in to be evaluated. It's a third-party evaluation. What's great about the book, though, is at the beginning, they have a whole section of like how we break it down, how we formulated our criteria for a rating system.
Okay, we're going to put that in the description for people to find it on their own, for people who are interested in that type of thing. Some people just like information. Some people like to do their own research, which I always encourage. So that's so
that's a great resource. The other thing I will say is that I think that one blanket statement I could make, and I'll even temper it a little bit. Most people do need a high quality multivitamin, multi-mineral. Right? No matter how clean you eat, no matter your diet, if you say to me, I can get everything I need from my diet, I say to you, if you're talking about the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, then yes, you probably can get everything you need from your diet. But the RDA was only designed to prevent diseases of deficiency. So the RDA for vitamin C, I think, is 50 milligrams a day. That's to prevent scurvy, which is a vitamin C deficiency, right? The RDA for vitamin D, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's to prevent rickets, which is a disease that can come from a vitamin D deficiency. The RDAs were not formulated with optimal cellular functioning in mind. So finding a product that has sometimes 200 and 300% more than the RDA is really beneficial in getting your cells the nutrition they need to function optimally. And I don't start people necessarily who are really debilitated due to illness on supplements right away. I think it's part of the path for most people that I see. But if someone's really debilitated, then I don't think their body's going to be able to absorb anything.
Exactly. You
So
gotta
the
build
first,
up the body first. Yeah.
correct. Let's clean up the diet. You know, get you feeling. Get the diet good. Get some as much exercise as you're capable of doing on a regular basis. Meditation, clean, pure water. And there are a couple of different filter companies I really like. I actually found a spring that's about an hour and a half from my house, and I go and collect water.
I
I go and
love
harvest
that.
water from the spring.
It's the best.
Because it comes from a deep water aquifer, so that as it comes through the rocks, it actually gets mineralized. So I'm getting minerals in my water and all of that. But there are really great ways. Like one of the things I teach my patients to do if they're drinking like filtered tap water is to make a saturated salt solution, which is a really high quality, like Celtic sea salt or Celtic sea salt or a Himalayan pink salt, but really high quality. And about a cup of water and a half a cup of salt, mix them together, and you'll see the salt crystals fall out of solution on the bottom. That's a saturated solution. And then stir that and take about a tablespoon of that and mix it to your drinking water throughout the day. Not everything you drink, but about half. And what that's going to do is going to add electrolytes, minerals, and some key nutrients that you need to help rebalance the electrolytes in the body. So that's something that's helpful for, I think, almost everybody.
That's a great tip. Yeah, absolutely.
You can do it. It's not too expensive. So in terms of supplementation, again, everybody's different. And so I work with several companies, but I enjoy working with companies that recognize that. And so they may have a core product that I like as a multivitamin, but then there are other things I can pick and choose to help with different issues that someone may be experiencing about or have concerns about in their personal health.
Awesome. You have a website. I know you're on social media, so people can definitely look you up and find you. And like you said, if you want to ask you questions directly, I will put all of that in the description below. But just quickly tell the people you are on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, and are you on Facebook? And you have a website.
Yep. So Facebook, Perry Levinson, Family Wellness Practitioner.
Okay.
My website is wholehealthyfamily.info, info.
Awesome.
Instagram, I think as I am Dr. P. I changed it recently.
Okay.
To that.
All right. I'll look it up for sure and just put the correct links in there.
Yeah. You can find me. I'm out there. I think if you Google me, I pop up in a bunch of different places. I'm looking at my Instagram profile right now, but I can't find it.
Because it's always good for people to actually connect with you and not just hear from this little snippet of time, because we all share valuable information on social media and our website, so people can really understand your work and how you can help others, because that's the whole idea, is really facilitating growth for people in all areas of their life. And of course, the only way to do that is when you're like fully functioning, healthy individual, right?
Right.
So
right.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I am really honored that you made the time to have this little conversation. And we'll talk soon. All right. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
You
Bye.